What's going on, everybody? Patrick Auger here with Mr. Drake Riggs, and we're breaking down the co-main event for the UFC Fight Night on February 6th. Cory Sandhagen taking on Frankie Edgar. This is a fight that's been booked or tried to have been booked a couple times, I believe, right? And now, we originally had it way back before Edgar took the short notice fight to fight the Korean Zombie, and then now it's finally coming to fruition here because Sandhagen went on to fight Marlon Moraes and kind of, say, yeah, like I'll wait my turn, go ahead and Aljamain fight for the belt and take on Edgar. So we finally got this fight. We've seen what Edgar looks at bantamweight. That was a big question originally when this matchup was booked way back in the day. Now we've actually seen him at bantamweight and he looks pretty solid. Drake, do you think that, Frankie has the answer for Cory?
Well played, sir. No, I do not think so. Well done, though. This fight is funny because it's a fight that I don't think ever needed to be made. I don't think that Frankie should have jumped in at the initial time to face somebody like Cory Sandhagen when this was originally put together. Now, Frankie has made his debut, as you mentioned, and he beat Pedro Munhoz and is high up in the rankings. It makes sense now. It makes sense to do this now. More sense anyway. It's just as I just quoted there, I don't think that Frankie should have got the win over Munhoz. I think I would even go as far to say, and I hate to use this word loosely, and I don't, but I think that was a bit of a robbery. I struggle to see Frankie winning that fight. I think pretty clear 3-2. Of course, he hung in there. He looked solid and was competitive, clearly, with a top guy like Pedro Munhoz, but I don't know. You're taking on a Cory Sandhagen now who's proven to be a bit of a different animal. And he has all the length advantages, the knockout power, and not to say that Pedro Munhoz doesn't. Of course, he's been a very strong finisher as well, but just stylistically, I struggle to see Frankie, especially on the feet, with somebody as diversely lethal as Cory Sandhagen has proven to be. I don't think it's going to be a good night for him. Frankie will have to take it to the ground, and even then, I'm not confident that he'll be able to hold Sandhagen down so much, compared to somebody who superior in strength and just more in their prime right now, as Aljamain Sterling is, for example. That's, of course, the best example to go to when making that comparison. But in the Munhoz fight too, and just like his last couple fights, really, I guess he did go for a takedown against Holloway, but he doesn't use his wrestling as much as maybe he once did. And of course, against Munhoz, that's a dangerous game to play with that guy. So it made sense that he didn't take the fight there or try to take the fight there in that one. But in this one, he should. But will he? I don't know. It hasn't been, a main path to victory that he's been willing to run down. We're gonna make some good metaphors. But I don't know. I think it's a very tough one for him. I'm curious to know what the odds are on this one because I think Sandhagen should be a pretty solid favorite. I would be very surprised if Frankie Edgar pulls this off. But I guess if anyone's going to do it, it's the ultimate underdog, right?
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up really well. For the odds, to give you an idea of what the bookmakers have, they range from what I'm seeing here on Best Fight Odds is the best you can get Cory Sandhagen is -350. The worst is -476. So, I mean, it's not it's on paper, especially seeing Sandhagen's outings recently versus that fight against Pedro Munhoz, which, I looked at MMA decisions real quickly. Most everyone favored Munhoz, but there were some Frankie Edgars there. It wasn't a complete robbery as we've seen sometimes. And fans had it more scored 48-47. I remember watching too. I don't remember who I gave it to. I remember having it 48-47 with some very close rounds. So I could kind of see some of the, disagreement there. But that all being said, Frankie Frankie is one of the wrestlers that I like to put in the category of has been in the UFC too long. And what I mean by that in that there are wrestlers that adapt and continue to use their wrestling as their main go-to, and that's their thing. And then there are wrestlers who get into the UFC, and not even just the UFC, really MMA, but then they start to strike and they need to get their striking better. And all they work on is their striking until it becomes, oh, I'm not really a wrestler. I like to throw punches. Yoel Romero is a perfect example of that. A guy who just like had a great arsenal of wrestling, just didn't really use it.
Abandoned.
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot in the sport, honestly. And Frankie's kind of gone that route at this point. Like, as you mentioned, in that against Pedro, he did, utilize it. Well, not really. I mean, because you don't want to, because of how dangerous Pedro is. But you saw some flashes, right? He feinted it, I feel like, a fair amount. That's at least okay. Like, he knew he could pull the trigger if he needed to. But against Sandhagen, he can't stand up with him. Sandhagen, I think, will just clean his clock if he stands up with him, especially when we've seen the Korean Zombie knock him out, when we've seen Ortega knock him out. I feel like Sandhagen does the same thing. Sandhagen has knocked out a lot of guys who, Moraes is a perfect example of someone that I wouldn't have expected that fight to end in a knockout. And yet, Sandhagen pulled it off. He's got heavy hands. He's got great striking. And Frankie's going to have to go to his wrestling well. Can he hold him down long enough? Is he strong enough to do that? And he's not a big submission guy, right? He doesn't have a ton of jiu-jitsu where he's throwing it out all the time, constantly looking for submissions. That all being said, I know I've gone, very much in favor of Sandhagen here, but I do think there is something to be said about some of these guys at higher weight classes when they make the move down. I feel like in the first fight or two, you can kind of tell, and depending on how the weight cut went, right, how they look on the scales, you could kind of tell, like, are they going to be okay in this weight class, or like could that dehydration really hurt them more? All of that. Edgar's been all the way up at lightweight, right? He's fought at lightweight. He's a former lightweight champion. That's crazy to think about nowadays.
Didn't cut any weight.
Yeah, didn't cut any weight. So I think him moving down to 135, I'm actually thinking he might be stronger than we think in terms of, even though Sandhagen's big and, the sport has evolved now where you've got guys cutting weight more so probably than they ever used to, just because now we've got different nutritionists and things to help with that. But I still think Edgar might have the strength advantage here. And if he does, and he does utilize that wrestling, I think that's a problem for Sandhagen. I think he can hold him down. I think he can grind out a decision win here. I don't think he's going to necessarily get a finish. Maybe he does, but I think if that strength advantage is there, which I'm going to say yes for Frankie, which I know a lot of people are looking at me like, are you crazy right now? I'm like, maybe I am. Maybe I am. But I think we'll find out. I think if Frankie could avoid the big strikes and then get him down to the ground, I think Frankie can win this one.
I mean, that's kind of the thing on the feet, is that Frankie should probably have a slight speed advantage. He's always been a very quick guy and, in and out movement and a volume striker, for the most part. I think that, and Sandhagen has proven to be pretty hittable, if you're that fast. Like, just to look at the Lineker fight, for example, which I will tell you, I do think that one was a robbery as well, actually. Just to speak about robberies now, I think Lineker won all three of those rounds. A very interesting fight to score. But, yeah, he got touched up by Lineker plenty in that one. But that fight also shows the incredible chin that Cory Sandhagen has, because John Lineker landing on you as much as he did, not many can withstand that. So I see pretty much no way that Edgar can knock out Cory Sandhagen, just going from, what we know about him and have seen and everything. But it is possible that Frankie could outland him. I think that is possible, depending on if he does have that speed advantage. If he goes in and out, and just touches up Cory, over the course of the 3 rounds that we're given here. But he still is going to need to mix in, or at least threaten with, his wrestling. But the safe choice here, I think, is to believe that Sandhagen's going to find some things, and we'll see if his chin's going to be a lot more tested. Let's put it that way.
Yes, and you know it's going to be, as you mentioned, it's a narrower path to victory for Frankie. That I don't think is debatable, but I do think it's there. And as you mentioned, in terms of the speed advantage, I think that does go to Frankie. And I think if he's able to avoid the big shots, you know, mix up those takedowns with striking, even if he goes for a takedown, he's not able to get it, just, you know, put Sandhagen on the back feet, then yeah, he could grind out a decision somehow. And that's what I'm seeing is Frankie's path to victory here. Now, if you're watching this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done that already. Hit the notification button to know when we're dropping the latest videos, so you're part of the elite 10%. I think it's actually up to 12 now. So gracias to everyone that did that, because that's
a delightful dozen.
Yes, delightful dozen. But but with that in mind, actual predictions. What do you think in terms of who gets it done in what round and how?
Sandman puts him to sleep. First round knockout.
Oh, Sandman. Is that not his nickname?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, it should be. If it's not, I was gonna say if it's
like,
not,
damn, I like that.
Yeah, we got to talk to him because that is very good. Yes, that's a great nickname. Yeah, I'm gonna go against the grain here. I'm gonna underdog pick it. I think Frankie Edgar, you know, is going to end up. I think he's going to end up getting a decision win. I think his chin was tested by Pedro a little bit, because Pedro has some knockout wins.
Yep.
You know, so I think it's dangerous. I get on paper Sandhagen's the safe bet, but I'm going to have to go Frankie. I think he has the answer. I think he gets it done.